Hey everyone, and welcome to your Drawing 101 tutorial. Please excuse the state of my hands and how messy the bookshelf is behind me. It is just part and parcel of life right now. So to start off, we're going to look at all of the stuff that we're going to need for basic drawings, which include pencils, erasers, and that sort of stuff. So in your little art pack, you will have a mini sketchbook, which is for you to use for your projects and for whatever else inspires you. You have some pencils, and you will also have a kneadable eraser, but we'll go through that. So you will have a collection of pencils. Mine are a big mishmash because I've been drawing for a long time. I'm just going to take some of them out so we can talk about what the different numbers mean and those sorts of things. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't have a 7B, I don't think. Okay, so we have a collection of pencils, and we're going to look at. We have a collection of pencils, and we're going to look at the sort of structure of a pencil and what it means. So I'll grab this nice looking 2B normal Staedtler pencil. And we've got obviously the body of the pencil, and we've got the graphite in the front, which is what we use to draw. We call this lead colloquially because there did used to be lead in pencils, but that is now being changed to graphite, which is sort of a variation of charcoal. So you can get pencils that look like this, which is what we're used to, but I've also got one or two of these graphite only pencils. So there's no wood casing, the entire pencil is graphite, and then it's got a protective coating on the outside to prevent your hands from getting dirty, but you can draw with them much the same as a normal pencil. So I just thought that was cool to include. And then in terms of the numbers and stuff on the pencils and what it means, we've got typically a number and a B, and those are the pencils we use for tonal drawings, which is what we're going to do. So the B stands for black, and the 2 or the whatever number in front denotates how soft the graphite is inside the pencil. So if we look at my 2B versus my very old 8B, you can see that the graphite inside the pencil looks a lot softer in the 8B versus the 2B. And then for your pencils like HB, that means hard black. It's generally a good pencil to use because it's pretty dark but also easy to erase. And then you've got pencils like H and 2H, which you use more in technological drawings and that sort of stuff. And the H stands for hard. So those pencils, the graphite itself is very hard, but it makes a very soft pale line, super easy to erase and nice to use for planning lines. So you'll have your pencils, and then you have a couple of options for erasers. I've got this stick eraser that I've used for quite a while, quite useful because it fits in there. You've got your normal rubber eraser that most people use, and then you have your kneadable or squishy eraser. So these are designed to be molded to whatever you need them to do. So I keep mine in this little container just because it gets very gross and gathers dust very quickly. So when you need it, you just reach in, you grab a little bit, you mold it to whatever you need to erase, and you put it back. So these are super, super useful, but I really do suggest putting them in some sort of little container just to keep them clean. And then obviously you also need a sharpener. And so you have your sharpener. I suggest having these 2 ones because they're more useful, and then just keeping a tissue or napkin around to hold your sharpening shavings so that when you're done drawing you can literally just pick it up and chuck it in the recycling. So that's a nice way to keep everything clean and organized. Fabulous. So that's sort of what you need to do your drawings. And we will now look at drawing techniques and how to do the basics. So drawing is a really useful and fun thing to do with your time. It's a useful skill to have because of the amount of fine motor skills that you use when you draw. So let me just grab a different pencil. So something to consider when you are drawing is pen grip, or the way that you hold your pen. Pen grip, or the way that you hold your pen. And most people who grew up when I grew up, we got taught to sort of hold a pen like this, and that has changed since. You guys hold your pens in all sorts of weird, wacky, and wonderful ways. But I want you to be aware of how you hold your pen so that you can accommodate that for when you draw. So when the webbing of your hand here is open, you can use lots of tiny movements to get the effect that you want. But if you hold your pen differently, you have to use bigger movements to get the same effect, and that normally leads to hand cramps. Another thing for my lefties is you've been told to write from left to right, but when you draw, you can draw from right to left to avoid smudging your artwork, or you can grab an extra piece of paper and use that to rest your hand on to avoid smudging with your hand while you draw. So super useful. You don't need to be any particular orientation of handedness to be able to draw. So just some things to think about before we start. What I'm gonna do is show you guys how you can get different kinds of marks from your pencil, because that's what drawing basically is. It is mark making on a page. On that note, I am a big fan of seeing the visible hand of the artist in your artwork, which is why I hate these things. This is a smudging tool. I've had this one for years. I don't even know why I keep it, because I hate it, and it gives that smudginess, which helps for doing like photorealistic drawings, but you don't need it, because if you want something to be photorealistic in the age of 2021, you can just take a photo. But the skill in drawing is what we are going to focus on. So no earbuds, no tissues, no smudging. We're going to learn how to do those things using drawing techniques. So to get a very, I've got a 4B pencil, by the way. This is my favorite pencil. Found out about these at uni, and for some reason they're just my favorite. So you're going to start off pressing very, very lightly with your pencil, using the side of the pencil to get a soft line, and as you go, you'll start to press harder and harder to get down to that really black. So you can achieve a whole range of gray just using one pencil. So when we use the side of the pencil, it's a lot smoother. We can shade big areas at a time as long as we keep the pressure of the pencil consistent. And then when we draw with the top of the pencil with the sharp line, you can see that we get a very different effect, and I can press really lightly, or I can press really hard and get all sorts of different effects on that. So the angle of your pencil matters, as does the pressure. So what I'd like you guys to do is try a couple of these gradients where you just grab your pencil, start out pressing very, very lightly, and as you go, increase the pressure. Slowly but surely, try and keep it steady until you get down to a really, really, really black. And do the same thing with the sharp part of the pencils. Do lots of like little sketchy lines, maybe press a little bit harder, and then press super, super hard and see what kind of effect you get. Just to get comfortable with the pencil and the drawing and that sort of stuff. And then you can sort of start to play around with making different marks in what we are going to do now, which is shading techniques.